Hey guys, it is NCS Fan 001 here for another one of those weekly Trophy List Tuesday Trophy Talk Trophy Updates, whatever you wish to call it, because I feel like I call it by a million names at this point. Anyway, today's date is Tuesday, June the 3rd of 2025. Already getting close to the halfway point of the year. I gotta say, a couple of these months have gone by pretty fast, especially the month of May. Anyway, this will have covered the week of, I believe it would be May the 27th through June the 2nd of 2025. That sounds correct. Anyways, there was some progress done this week. It wasn't like an insane amount, and it also included a big surprise, which you can probably see right here. So, first and foremost, let's just talk about both versions of Up first and just get those out of the way, because I did get both Platinums done in the past week. Now, like I've talked about before, this is probably one of the weakest of the PlayStation Classics games that we've gotten, because it has a lot of issues. It does not play well, in my opinion. It feels like it was built to be like a two-player game, and if you try to play it in solo, it's just not a good time. It just doesn't really work that well. Controls are a little bit finicky in a lot of places. The gameplay, sometimes it just doesn't make sense, because sometimes you'll like jump to a rope, and then your partner will immediately follow you, and then other times you'll jump on the rope and then walk like 50 feet away, and he still won't get on the rope, or will miss the jump, or just do stupid stuff like that, and then you get pulled backwards to where he is at any given time. It's just not a well put together port. I didn't mind the original PS3 version of this game that I did all the way back in like 2013 or so, because it was the first of these licensed kids games I had done, so it doesn't actually show up there. I was going to go check it out, but yeah, so this is one I would definitely say you probably don't really want to bother with unless you're a super fan of the movie, and that might be part of it in that Up is a pretty solid Disney Pixar film, but it's not one of the ones that I'm more familiar with, like, say, WALL-E or the original Cars or Toy Story, stuff like that. So maybe if you were more of a mega fan of Up, you might like it a bit more. Now, the Platinum Trophy is still not that hard, mainly thanks to the whole rewind feature, and you can get the Platinum within, I'd say, like 6-ish hours or so. In fact, I wonder what the fastest achievers are here on the PS4 version. 3.5 hours, 3 hours, 44 minutes. I would believe these 5-hour ones a little bit more. I could see you maybe speedrunning it that fast. But given you can't skip cutscenes and stuff on your first playthrough, I'm not entirely sure. Unless you could somehow do the levels out of order or something, I don't know. But anyways, in terms of getting the Platinum, all of these silver trophies at the top, all of these are unmissable and story related. These are all items that you'll get along the way. You'll need the rope to be able to climb certain areas. You'll need the lantern to illuminate dark areas. The pickaxe is used to basically, as a grapple hook, even though there is a grapple hook later on. It's basically the same thing, but used in different places. The golf club is used by the old man, Mr. Fredrickson, to hit golf balls at faraway targets, which can include ways to get to collectibles or enemies. And the magnifying glass allows you to light dynamite on fire and make it blow up, which is very random, and it's like the very last thing that you get in the game right at the end. Then these 4 gold trophies that come up next, all 4 of those are also unmissable and story related. Those are for the 4 boss fight levels of the game. The first 3 boss fight levels are against the different mind-controlled dogs, I think is what it was, or like collar-controlled dogs. And basically you just have to hit them 3 times in a specific way, usually by launching a rock at them, by putting it on a teeter-totter and then jumping on the other side of it. And then the final boss fight, the Charles Muntz fight, is one of the few good levels in the game, because the game has 27 levels, and they can range anywhere from like 3 minutes or so for some of the shorter ones up to being like over 10 minutes long for some of the longer ones. And the very last level is one of the few good levels in the game, in my opinion, because it's the one where you go in the plane and have to shoot down other planes and then shoot down the giant Zeppelin. So that mission's actually pretty fun overall, but a lot of the other ones were not that well put together, in my opinion, or just were not that interesting or that fun to play. Then you have to win a bug trophy as both Mr. Fredrickson and as Russell. So what this means is, with Mr. Fredrickson, it's about squishing the little like yellow and black bugs that pop up out of the ground and out of certain objects constantly throughout each level. And for Russell, it means collecting the bugs instead of squishing them. You have to complete any level with your character having more of those actions done, and you have to do it for each of the 2 characters, but those are very likely going to come naturally without even really trying, mostly because you have to get this bigger, better Bugmaster trophy that's a gold trophy. For that particular one, you have to get all the bug trophies in the game, which means you have to get the most squishes or captures on every single level where it's available. You don't have to do this on every single level. Not every level has bugs or collectibles on it to deal with, but you will be doing this on, like, it's somewhere between 15 and 20 of the levels. I don't remember the exact number. But you do have to win it for all levels, which I had no problem doing this. Just, squish or collect any bug that you come across, and you should be totally fine. It really shouldn't cause too many major issues. And then you also have this Fate of the Colony trophy for saving or squishing 100 bugs in any chapter. It just means get your bug score to 100. It doesn't matter if you switch between the characters throughout it. This can be done in a couple of levels. There's one level later on in the game, maybe around 16 or 17 in, that has a lot of bugs because it's a really long level. But I would say your best option is just to do this in the very first mission of the game, as that one has plenty of bugs for you to get. So I would say that's probably your best option. Then you have to complete any of the raft races without being reset. This is definitely one of the more challenging trophies in the game, purely because the rafting sections don't work, like, at all. Basically, you have to mash the X button as fast as possible, but sometimes it still won't be fast enough to make turns or go up river areas, which is why we sort of, as a chat, decided it was probably meant to be played in co-op with another person. But yeah, that was definitely one of the more obnoxious areas of the game, because there's 3 rafting levels. You also have to dodge these giant alligators. Most of them are easy to get around, but there's these, like, there's one or two of these bigger, like, albino alligators in each of these that basically chase you around and are very, very difficult to avoid, require a lot of luck to get past. So definitely not one of the more fun parts of the game, in my opinion. And then the Kevin trophy down below it, there's only 3 Kevin levels as well, I believe. The only one you can seemingly get this one on is the very first one, which is like level 6 or 7 of the game, because it's the only one where you start playing as Kevin, whereas the other 2 you start playing as Russell, who's on the back using his mirror to deflect enemies and make them run away and stuff, because that's his sort of attack method. So I would say about the only way to do it is on that very first level, but thanks to the rewind feature, it's not really hard at all. It just might take a little while to work your way through the level, but those levels are pretty short, so it's not that big a deal. Then we have our 2 other collectible trophies for collecting 100 mementos as Mr. Fredricksen and 100 butterflies as Russell. So the mementos are just little picture frames, and the butterflies are glowing butterflies. Every level that has these collectibles has 8 of each, with the exception of the first level where you get onto the giant Zeppelin, blimp, whatever it's called, toward the end of the game. Because in that level, you only play as Mr. Fredricksen and the dog, and that means that only Mr. Fredricksen's mementos are actually in the level. So there are 8 more mementos in the game than butterflies. So you'll be pretty close to finishing the mementos by the time you finish the game if you find all the collectibles that you can come across. You'll be a little bit further away on the butterflies because there's probably like close to 110 total butterflies, and then I guess like 115 to 120 of the picture frames, I would guess, something like that. So you are allowed to miss a fair number of them, but part of the problem is you can't get all of them on your first playthrough of most of the levels, because you need other abilities to get to at least like one collectible, usually multiple collectibles on each level, so you will have to replay at least a few levels, and you also can't save and quit the game at the end. Like once you get your collectible, you can't just save and quit out of the level, you have to finish it, which is a little bit annoying on some of the longer ones. Though the trophies do pop mid-level, so if you get your last trophy midway through the level, you don't have to finish it or anything like that. We'll skip the speed trophy for a second. The concept art is purchasable from the cheats, or no, not the cheats menu, it's from the bonus menu alongside the cheats. And there's 25 pieces of art, and they cost either 100 or 200 points each, which you get by completing levels, potentially completing them in a speed run time, finding the collectibles, and winning the bug trophies. You'll have more than enough points by the time you get all the other trophies in the game, as long as you focus on spending them purely on the concept art. I would recommend not purchasing anything else except maybe the cheats, because you could potentially, not necessarily soft lock yourself out of this, but if you were to purchase a bunch of other stuff that isn't concept art, and then sort of run out of points by the time you find your last collectibles for those trophies, you would have to go replay more and more levels. I assume there's enough points in the game to purchase everything, but you don't want to have to make yourself play the game for longer, of course. And then you have to beat the best time in 10 chapters. Now, at first that seemed like it could be a bit daunting because a lot of the levels seem to have strict time limits, but it's really actually not that bad because the rafting levels and the Kevin levels, thanks to the rewind feature, are all very, very easy to get through. So that's 6 right there in terms of getting through them in the amount of time. Obviously, the rafting levels, I ranted about that a bit earlier. But getting through them in the time limit is pretty easy, so that's 6 right there. Then there's like 3 levels where you're tethered to the house and you can do those really like high, long jumps. And those 3 are also pretty easy to do this on. And then you just need 1 more after that, which you can probably get in, really, I would say the 2nd and 3rd boss fights are pretty easy overall to do this on, as is the very last mission of the game when you're in the plane. So I'd say there's a solid like 12 or 13 that are relatively easy to get, so I wouldn't be too worried about that trophy. So yeah, that was Up the video game, and like I said, I was not particularly a big fan of it. And 3 days, 1 hour, 14 minutes to get the platinum, so you could definitely do it faster, of course. As for the PS5 version, it took a similar amount of time, but I was able to probably play this one a little bit less just because I sort of knew what to do. So I probably spent less time actually playing the game. And that is a very fast time. I don't know how you could do this in under 3 hours, but maybe if you play it in co-op, that's a possibility, is that maybe if you play it in co-op or something, maybe that's how you can do it a lot faster. I never even thought about that, if you can even really do that on this version. Because remember, this is the PSP version of the game that got ported over, so do keep that in mind. And then, the other game I worked on this past week was Tom Clancy's The Division 2. Now, for those who don't know, with The Division 2, the game came out back in 2019, and the first 6 DLCs, all the way through Operation Dark Horse here, all of those released by the year 2020, by mid-2020. Because I believe the first people to get the Ironbreakers trophy, June 1st, 2020, or, no wait, never mind. July 1st, 2020. So July 1st, 2020 was when people first managed to get that trophy. So that was basically exactly 5 years ago. Almost exactly 5 years ago. 4 years and 11 months pretty much. And then they randomly dropped this Battle for Brooklyn DLC. Now, it seems to be very easy overall in terms of what the trophies require. It's so random, like, that might be one of the longest delays we've ever gotten between trophy-equipped DLCs in any game where it's actually possible to do. Obviously, Borderlands 1 on the Japanese version is a bit of an exception to that. If you don't know what happened with that game, basically what happened was they initially only ever released the first 3 DLCs, which technically made it easier than the other versions because you didn't have to do the claptrap, grindy stuff. And then, like 10 years later, they randomly added the trophies for that 4th DLC, the Claptrap DLC, to that version. But they never intended to and never did release the DLC for that version of the game. Therefore, that 100% is actually impossible. And it's really just insane that they would make a mistake like that. It's one of the biggest screw-ups in trophy history, in my opinion. But that was like 8 or 9, maybe even 10 years later, but this one is definitely one of the longest delays we've gotten for a game that actually is still obtainable. So in terms of the trophies, there aren't any specific story-related trophies, it looks like, which is really, really weird, unless this Hometown Hero trophy is tied into completing absolutely everything, which I could definitely see that being a case, so maybe once you clear the entire story, you have all the main locations, and then the secondary locations, I'm assuming, are like the control points and any side quests that are available. So you probably do still have to finish the entire story to do everything. But it's not that bad. Like, I'm probably, 75% of the way through it, and we've only played it for about 4 hours total, so it's not that long of a DLC. It's shorter than the previous New York DLC, the Warlords of New York DLC. So it's at least shorter than that one and simpler overall. There's no difficulty-related trophies or anything like that to worry about. You'll get the smart cover skill about halfway through the story for this new area, which will just take a few hours. Once you get it, just equip it and use it once. It basically like reinforces your cover and makes you stronger in cover. Then you have to discover 4 control points in Brooklyn. I think this one was bugged for me in a positive way, as was one of the other trophies, because I'm only ever discovered 3 control points as far as I'm aware, unless the base at the bridge also counts as one of the 4. That's the only other thing I can think of, or if just randomly coming across activities can also unlock it. Because I think I got it before I even got to my 3rd control point. I think there's 4 total, like 2 in each of the 2 new explorable areas. But it seems to have popped early, which is really, really weird. And it's all on stream, so I actually streamed a good chunk of this game so far, because I might make like a short trophy video out of it later on. We'll have to see, though. Then for accessing a safe house in Brooklyn, there's, I assume, 2 total. There's 1 in each side of the map, so not really difficult there. Just find each of them and you're good to go. Then you have to put out a call for backup, which you can do at any time, just by going to like the pause menu and hitting whatever button it is, calls for backup. You don't even have to have it responded to. So super easy trophy right there. Then you have this trophy. Now, this trophy was bizarre. I still don't know what actually happened with this. Basically, I kept trying to join in on other people when they put out a call for help, but I could never, like, manage to get to them. I don't know if it was working wrong or if I was doing something wrong. I was probably doing something wrong, in all honesty. But then, eventually, toward the end of the first stream I did of this, it was so weird. This is still such a strange thing to have happened. I went into like one of the sewer tunnels and it popped me out on the other side of the map next to someone and like squatted me up with someone that I didn't remember ever like joining or anything like that. And they went down but never made a call for help. So trying to be the nice person that I can sometimes be, I go and revive the guy and the trophy pops. That was weird. I still have no idea exactly what happened with that. That was a really, really weird moment. But hey, the trophy unlocked, so thankfully. Then, like I said, for this one, I assume this is going to require you to complete the main story, complete any side quests, and then liberate all the control points. And I kind of assume you have to do the projects as part of that as well, but that's not... But apparently the projects are tied into this bounty hunter one. So apparently for this, according to at least 1 or 2 people in the chat, you have to complete the project for each of the 2 safe houses and the one for like the main area of this DLC, and then you like have to do all of the bounties available at any given time. I don't fully understand that one. I might have to look a little bit further into that one and see exactly what you have to do. But apparently that one's a little bit more complicated than it looks. But either way, this DLC is, a 2 to 3 out of 10 in difficulty, probably closer to like a 2.5 out of 10 in difficulty, especially if you were doing it in a group, because you can do everything on the story difficulty. There was also one time where the game just randomly upped me to challenging difficulty when I was going after a control point, which makes so much sense, I guess. It just randomly did that, unless I somehow did it myself, which I don't think I did. So yeah, it's possible I'm just forgetting a lot of stuff about this game, or the game's just kind of buggy, which is entirely possible as well. So anything interesting here on the home page? Looks like lots of DLCs. That's the, I guess, Chinese version of that Immortals Phoenix Rising or whatever it was called that Ghost played and was not a fan of. I know that one interesting thing we're getting in here is Backyard Baseball 97. That was the original Backyard Baseball. That's going to be pretty freaking exciting. Definitely going to be playing that. I never, owned this game or anything when I was younger, but I know I played it, at school or with friends and stuff like that, so I have some memories of it, some very small memories of it. Bring Pablo Sanchez in there, just dominate the competition. So yeah, definitely excited for that. Whenever that ends up coming out, I'll probably play that at some point. Also need to point out that Division 2's DLC is, I think, $15, which is probably a little excessive for the overall amount of content. But I've already synced up my trophies, so with that, level 896, 94% of the way through, 30,368 total trophies, 875 platinums, 5,840 golds, 8,161 silvers, 15,492 bronzes. So, plans for the upcoming week. In terms of trophies, I would love to go ahead and finish off the Division 2, and I'm probably going to start streaming Life is Strange Before the Storm Circle only playthrough, so that's going to be probably the next game that I do for that. I'm not doing a specific trophy video out of it like I do for some games. I'm just sort of recording that and, being able to say that at the end of it and just see what happens when I stream it. The Astros Playroom video, of course, went up on Sunday. It's doing reasonably well, especially for that being, a shorter, easier platinum, so that's good. Next video will probably be the Black Ops 3 Mike Banning challenge as an actual video because I've already got the script written and everything. I'm going to go record that after this. So that one should be up fairly soon as well because those are a little bit easier to put together. And then after that, I think the next video after that is either the Clock Tower speed run or the Astrobot Platinum in 100%. Probably might just do the Clock Tower one first just to knock that one out because that one won't take as long to edit either, I don't think. We've also got the Black Ops 6 as DLC. We've got that one. We've got College Football 25 and a few other ones to edit in the future as well. And of course, the entire Sly franchise, which was a pretty fun thing to put together. Hopefully, I can be the first person to do that exact type of video for that particular series, at least. Yeah, 7 incomplete games. One of them is the Division 2, which will be done hopefully by the end of this week. The only other thing, though, is that there's a very real possibility at any point in the near future that I might just, have to drop everything and go home. Because, like I was talking about on my Friday stream, my older dog, he's 12 years old. In human years, which is pretty old for for a bigger dog like a lab like he is, and he had some bad health issues, and thankfully he's recovering from them, but he is getting up there and getting older, so at any point I might just drop everything and just go home to spend some time with him in case things start going worse at any point. So just keep in mind that I'll try to keep a fairly consistent schedule, but I'm not making any 100% guarantees. But hopefully schedule should be fairly normal this week as long as Spectrum doesn't screw me over again, because that was really, really annoying when they just stopped doing service correctly twice in about a week, which is just, again, really, really annoying because it's not what we pay for. But anyways, that is going to be it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell if you haven't done so already. Let me know down in the comments what kind of progress you guys made this past week. And I will hopefully see y'all here on some combination of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for at least a few streams. So see you guys then.